Welcome to Series 2, Episode 16. On the show today, I've got Dominic Colenso, former Thunderbird, inspirational speaker, and founder of InFlow, a company giving you sales and leadership impact. As we all know, we're now in show business. We can have our own TV channels, we can have our own podcasts. We talk Zoom fatigue, selling down the lens, playing the leading role, putting on a show, and how to be resilient. Dominic has some fabulous communication tips to share and great stories. Enjoy. Thanks for being a fab listener, and of course, please do subscribe and tell your friends. Welcome to the Johnny Ross audio experience. I'm Johnny Ross, founder and digital marketing strategist of Fleek Marketing. Each podcast, I'll be bringing you an expert to inspire you, to give you some great business growth takeaways, and to get you thinking about marketing and the bigger picture of how businesses can improve, adapt, and grow. I look forward to sharing this with you on each podcast, so here we go. Hello and welcome to another live Q&A. Today we've got Dominic Colenso with us. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me, Johnny.
It's a pleasure and it's great for you to be here. Dominic's a keynote speaker. He's also a founder and, you're a former Thunderbird, which we're going to get into.
That's true.
An inspirational speaker and you're also a founder of InFlow Training. You're a best-selling author. The list goes on and on. In fact, actually, I'm going to start there because I read that by the age of 26, you had been a Thunderbird, lost $1 million. Is that right? And you fired by Simon Cowell. Before we go into that, I'm just going to say welcome to everyone. We're on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn, we're live on YouTube. We're also on a podcast as well. So thanks if you're listening. And if you've got any questions, feel free to add comments. But it's great that you're here, and it's great that Dominic's joined us as well. And we're going to be talking a lot about the stuff that you do now and what you've written about in your book, Impact. Just take us back. Tell me more about the Thunderbird losing $1 million and being fired by Simon Cowell.
Yeah, there's a lot to go into there, but I started my career as a professional actor. So I'd always kind of enjoyed being on stage, and I got to the age of sort of 16, 17, get to that point where you think, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I was quite academic. So there was one option was to kind of go down the academic route. I was thinking maybe law, business, something like that, or go and try your hand and see what happens being on stage and that sort of stuff. And luckily, back in the day, you could do a degree and then the government would pay for you to do a second degree and a third degree. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna take the risk. I'm gonna go to drama school. I was young in my years, so I think I was 17. And I applied to all of these drama schools. I was living in Germany at the time, so I was flying back for these auditions. Did the first, second, third, fourth, fifth drama school audition and got rejected by them all. So the pressure was on for the last one, and I got accepted. So I went to a school called Drama Centre London. Tom Hardy was in the year above me. People like Michael Fassbender, Helen McCrory, Piers Brosnan, all of those sorts of actors went there, and it was amazing. It was this kind of really tough conservatoire training. There were just 90 people in the school, so 30 people in each year, and got through to the end of that with a few trials and tribulations on the way, and kicked off a fantastic career as an actor. So very lucky to land an early role in the Thunderbirds adaptation in 2004 with Sir Ben Kingsley and Bill Paxton.
This was Hollywood's version, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So as a working title in Universal Pictures, so Busted did the theme tune, big deal, London premiere, flying over to Japan for press junkets, and we did a premiere in Japan to 6,000 people. We had V6, which were the kind of Japan's equivalent of One Direction doing the theme tune and dubbing all our voices. So there were 5 of them, and then there were 5 Tracy brothers, and it was just nuts. It was all very good fun at 21. It was amazing.
Wow. And so carry on. So what's the? I don't know any. I mean, we met at an ILM Train the Trainer course. We were just discussing just before we went live. We think it was many moons ago. But I've never known anything about the lost $1 million. What's that one?
So that was part of the Thunderbirds contract. So we when we signed up for the movie, we signed a 3-movie deal. And movie number 3 was $1 million. And the way that the world of acting works is that the studios get to say, tie you in and say you're going to do it, but they can also say, yeah, actually we're not going to do it. So I got paid a very modest fee for the first film, and the second and third film were going to go incrementally bigger. And we got out of the first film, did all the press junkets, and everything seemed quite positive. They'd written the second script, they'd booked the studios, it was all going to go. And then, unfortunately, my understanding is that it just didn't do well enough in America. So Thunderbirds is a very British concept, and the Japanese are mad for it, and in Europe it went down really well. But the Americans just didn't get it. So unfortunately, Universal kind of sat down and said, we're going to pull the contract. So having kind of probably, if I'm honest, at 21 years old, mentally spent that first $1 million, I had to go back to finding a day job and trying to pay the rent.
Wow. And Simon Cowell, getting fired by Simon Cowell?
Yeah, so that was a few years later. I was in an ITV drama called Rock Rivals, and it was a kind of fictional adaptation of The X Factor. So I was signed up to play the lead character, or one of 2 characters that were going to go down into the final 2 for the show. And it was kind of bonkers. We were rehearsing and working with one of Westlife's kind of co-producers. We were having to sing and do the whole kind of gambit for that. And the idea was that we were both going to release, or we were both going to record a single. So me and Holly, who was an amazing singer, I'm rubbish, but she was great. We were both going to record a single, and then the final episode was going to go to the public vote. So it was a fictional show, but we're going to shoot 2 alternative endings, and the public were going to decide who they wanted to win the show. Then they'd air that episode, and they'd release the single that we both recorded. Anyway, about 4 weeks into filming, things have been going really well. I'd had great conversations with the producers and all of that sort of stuff. And I got told by the assistant director that I was getting a day off. So I was like, okay, that's great. We've been filming loads. So I thought, I'm going to chill out. We were out in Dublin. We were living out there. And I thought, I'm going to go and do a bit of retail therapy, have a wander around, have a coffee, just have some time off. And I was out walking in the centre of Dublin, I think buying some gym equipment, and I got a phone call from the producer saying, we need you back. We're having a full cast meeting. And I was like, well, I'm really sorry, I'm out. It's my day off. And she was like, no, I need you back. So I negotiated with her to get about another hour, and then came back to my apartment. And these apartments there was a courtyard where all the cast were staying. So if you looked up around you, you could see that no one else was home. And I was like, hang on, I thought we were having an all cast meeting. It's a bit weird. Anyway, I went into my apartment, got on the piano, started practicing my songs for the next episode that we were working on. Tried to phone the producer, like, you told me I needed to come home, but you're not here. Didn't get through, didn't think anything of it. Bit more piano playing, bit more line learning. And then all of a sudden my English mobile went, and it was my agent. And immediately in that moment, I was like, this is not good news. There's no reason for Claire to be phoning me. So I picked up the phone, and long story short, Simon had been out in America doing American Idol or one of those shows, come back and seen the rushes, and just decided that I wasn't the right fit for the part, in his opinion. I didn't look right. I think the feedback I got was I wasn't grungy enough. I was like, well, there's not a lot I can do about that, to be perfectly honest. So he kind of felt I was a bit too boy band. So they'd gone into negotiations, and it turns out that he kind of put his foot down and said, look, if you want my name associated with this show, you're going to have to recast this guy, pay him out of his contract. So I packed my bags the next morning and flew home from Dublin, and that was it. So that was a bit of a toughie. Quite hard to bounce back from that, but here I am.
Wow! But then, what you've done is you've taken things like that have happened throughout your career and turned them into what you offer now. So one of the inspirational talks that you do is around resilience, and you've said to me the knockbacks you have as an actor has probably really built your resilience, and you share that. So just before we go into that, though, I wanted to talk about so what you currently do, InFlow training, and you're ultimately helping leaders perform better in front of teams. You're helping leaders also. I mean, you're calling it selling down the lens. We're all in showbiz now. All on camera. But one of the things. So I'm just taking it back a bit though. So InFlow. One of the things that you do, you'd go in, you'd do some internal training, lots of bespoke. But very recently, you formalized that. And you've come up with a program that you now offer, and it's in 3 parts, isn't it? Impact, influence, and inspire. Just try and summarize what that is, and for people that are listening and watching, we're going to give loads of tips on some of these things. So how to be better on Zoom, how to be better on Teams. We are going to get to tips very shortly, but just try and summarize that: impact, influence, and inspire for me.
Yeah. So as you said, it's my belief that we're now all in show business. So, we spend all of our time, and I think this will go on when we look at coming out of this pandemic. The way that we work has changed. There's going to be a lot more remote working. People are going to spend less time in the office. So we needed to think about how we could help people really have a structured way of thinking about the way that they show up on camera. So we've created these accelerator programs, and we do them in the business development space. So pitching with impact, we do them in the leadership space, leading with impact. We do it for high performance teams, so communicating with impact. And what we've found is that there are 3 steps that people need to take. So the first is impact itself, and that is understanding your own performance, and that relies very much on the methodology from my book of the same name, and we take people through each of the 6 pillars of impact that will help you understand how you show up and how to tweak things depending on the circumstances, depending on the audience. Once you've got that self-understanding, you then need to think about how you use that with other people, and that's where we move on to influence. So in an influence module, we typically be looking at the challenging scenarios that people find themselves in. So for a sales team, it might be handling objections, or it might be those tricky questions and the person that just drills down into the detail. For a leadership team, it might be how they deliver difficult feedback in a virtual environment, or how they present an idea to the board. And what we'll do in an influence module is we'll typically bring in a role play actor, and we've been doing this very successfully virtually, and using that forum to put people in the hot seat, put them into a scenario that they find difficult, and then get them to apply the tools that they've learned in the previous module. And then the final piece of the jigsaw is inspire. And that's where we try and bring everything together and say, okay, so what's the big task that you have to do? Is it the pitch? So let's look at the pitch. So let's film the pitch and do some video analysis around it. Or is it, selling the vision and the values to the team and getting better at storytelling from a leadership perspective? Okay, let's look at that. So those 3 modules over 2 to 3 months really allow people to build muscle and to build a skill that is embedded into performance, rather than what we find sometimes with training interventions where you go in, you spend a couple of days with people, and then there's a little bit of kind of goodbye, good luck at the end of it. So we wanted to really make sure that we were holding people's hands and changing behavior.
Well, I mean, way before COVID, you were always on camera. You were a huge advocate for video, and that was around making an impact, not just with communication, but also on video as well. You came and did an in-house workshop for us probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, at least. And I always remember one of the just really simple tips that you gave 4 or 5 years ago was instead of sending instead of leaving a voicemail, send a video message. And what you're saying is actually you could still do that now and stand out.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you were sending a video message right now, you'd still be in the maybe top 5% of people in terms of your comfort level with doing that. What's nice about a video message is that you can really personalize the content. People can see your body language, they can hear your tone of voice, but they can consume that content at their leisure. You're not asking someone to get on a Zoom meeting with you. You're not, monopolizing a certain time in their diary. You're just saying, here's something that I want you to understand, but take it at your own pace. And we found that incredibly effective, and our clients, say that their results are great with that. And there's a lot of technology that supports that now. Loom is a great tool. BombBomb is a great tool. You can even just record a video and send it on WhatsApp. It doesn't have to be particularly difficult. I'm seeing a real increase from a social media perspective of people leaving voice memos now on LinkedIn and those sorts of things. But I do think the video is still the next level. So if you want to up your game, that's where I'd suggest you go.
But as I say, you've been saying this for 5 years,
banging on about it,
and it's still. It's still not turned, and what a great way, having experienced it myself and taken your advice 5 years ago, what a great way to get more comfortable on camera.
Absolutely.
What a brilliant idea. With regard to the clients that you're currently working with, and certainly over COVID, what sort of acceleration have you seen in terms of how businesses and organizations are going to be working? Do you think we've sort of jumped forward 5-10 years in terms of technology and hybrid and video, or is it not leaped as far as that?
No, I think it has jumped forward, light years. I think the statistic that I read most recently was 300 million Zoom participants a day.
Wow.
Right? And pre-COVID, that was around the 10 million mark. So, people's uptake of this technology is huge. Now, I would caveat that because it's not always the most appropriate thing to use. So I think there are some people that are doing video for the sake of doing video. And actually, having a phone conversation can be a lovely oasis in a sea of back-to-back video meetings. So don't underestimate the power of changing it up. But if you can't get into the room with someone and you really want to be able to influence them, then this is by far the best medium to do it. But then you need to be proficient at how you use the tool, because it is just a tool. And there are lots of little things that you can do to help you stand out from the crowd. And that's what we're helping people with at the moment.
One of the things that you do is help teams that may be very technically proficient. So, maybe an IT director, for example, who is trying to manage teams and needs those sort of softer skills. What are some of the things that you may help them? How do you help them achieve that?
So it's getting them to think differently about the way that they communicate. And for me, it's about a systematic approach. So impact in my book is actually an acronym, and it stands for intention. So what do you want people to know, feel, do? Your mindset. So how do you quieten some of those voices in your head? And if you're sitting on here thinking, what's he talking about? I don't hear voices. That's exactly the voice I'm talking about. We're constantly having that internal dialogue. The P is for presence, and that's about how you show up. So, you notice right now that actually I'm at a standing desk. There's something about the energy required to really engage with you and have this conversation that I personally couldn't do standing down. Or sitting down. So I'm not saying that everyone needs to stand, but it's about understanding your own physical presence and what works for you. The A in the audience, the A in the model is audience. So really flexing your communication and understanding who you're talking to and speaking their language. So your IT director example is a great one, because those people, generalization here, but people tend to be, very analytical, very focused, very process driven. And they might be talking to someone who's much more kind of impulsive and big picture. And quite often, if you try and bring those two styles together, you actually get conflict, and people aren't able to listen to each other. So you want to think, who am I talking to right now? And how do I tweak the way that I'm positioning this argument so it's easier for them to hear? The C in the model is content. So thinking about the language, the words that you use, what are some of the frameworks that you can use for good feedback or good pitch structure? And then the T, and this is really important for me, is technique, because it's about being the best version of you. As a speaker, as a trainer, as a coach, have no desire to turn out cookie cutter communicators, people that just do it my way. That'd be really, really boring. So it's sort of saying, okay, Johnny, this is you. What does the best version of you look like on your best day? How do we turn that up? And how do we maybe turn some of the other stuff down so that you're being the most effective that you can possibly be? So that's the kind of approach that we take.
And the key thing here, this isn't just, this is nowhere near just about video. This is about being in a room in a meeting. This is about being in front of people, even a one-to-one basis, standing on a stage in video. It's all of these things, isn't it?
Even writing an email, it all kind of comes out. Believe it or not, your physical presence when you sit down to type at the keyboard will dictate the quality of the email that you send. So if you're stressed and in a bad mood, then you're much more likely to send a rubbish email and then hit send before you should have done. So all of this stuff, really, really is interwoven. It's certainly not standalone.
But I also love the idea that, we obviously are talking about video because that's where the world's gone right now.
Yeah.
And it's something that you've been trying to get all of us to be doing for a long time. I love the idea that you're standing to do this. And you were saying that 80% of your time on camera is standing.
Yeah.
And it's only maybe if you're doing sort of a one-to-one consultancy where you might need to be making notes and a more relaxed atmosphere. But I think I think it really does change your way of thinking, and I am also seeing that in organizations where you've got standing meetings, so I can see how it connects, and it's a really good idea. The other thing that I remember you always saying was
what's important. Go on. No, what's important to remember is that, and this is a great tip for anyone watching, the camera sucks energy out of your performance. And I learned this very early on as an actor, watching Ben Kingsley, watching Bill Nye, people that just have amazing camera technique, and noticing that actually when they stood up in front of the camera, they really switched it on. Now, it wasn't about kind of big jazz hands and being kind of over the top and in people's face. It was actually about a level of focus. And you'll see that. You'll see in meetings on a day-to-day basis, people kind of performing at a level that is just about acceptable if you were sitting next to them. But that doesn't travel down the lens. So I talk about level 8 as being the optimum energy level. You've got, level 1 is I've got the man flu, I can't get out of bed. Level 10 is I've had 2 cans of Red Bull and a pack of M&Ms, all over the place. Level 8 is that sort of focus where I'm leading the conversation, I'm keeping you engaged, and I'm not allowing the energy to dip. Because if my energy dips, then your energy will dip. And so it's really important that people realize that the camera sucks energy out of your performance. You've got to move it up a notch.
Well, the interesting thing is when we interrupted each other, rightly so, we were both thinking the same thing, because what I was going to say was, I remember you always saying to me that you need to be 3 times more animated on camera than you need to be in person. And that sort of ties in with what you were just saying there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if 3 times is enough, but I like it. It's now getting to level 8. Okay,
level 8, and this is the thing. Like, a great tip for everyone is just record the next Zoom or Teams meeting you're on, and play it back. Now I know that's going to be painful, and like I've got an episode of Midsummer Murders that comes out every Christmas, and I always sort of sit behind the sofa and cringe because it's not nice seeing yourself on camera, but it is the easiest way to tell how you're coming across. And you might be quite surprised. What you think is a really kind of powerful, compelling performance may well be a little bit undercooked. So it's definitely worth taking a look.
But any more tips on how to get over the watching yourself and listening to yourself if you don't enjoy that? Because I must tell you, it's not something I enjoy either.
I think it's one of those things that just gets easier, and the important thing is to know why you're doing it. Like, you know, you're not doing it to torture yourself. Unfortunately, you do sound like that, and that's just one of the, because your microphone and your speaker are connected in here, it sounds different to you than it sounds to your audience. So unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you sound. But if you're doing it for the right reasons, it's going to give you a huge amount of feedback. And I normally just say, just watch the first couple of seconds, the first 30 seconds, a minute, and just ignore it and just get used to what you're doing. And then look for things that you can improve. Don't just beat yourself up for the sake of it. Don't worry what you look like particularly, but have a think about how you're framed. Have a think about the image that your audience is seeing. Have a think about where your eye contact is. All of those things are really easy to see when you watch yourself back on camera. So try and have that objective position when you do it.
Is it at this point that you tell me I've got a great face for radio?
No, you're a great example of someone that has framed themselves really well. You're right in the middle of the screen. We can see you, we can hear you. All of those things are really, really important.
Talk to me about the resilience side of things, and you say you've dealt with a lot of knockbacks. What was the thing that got you into InFlow? And are you telling me that if you weren't offered a leading role, that you would? Come on, let's be honest here. I know that you're happy, and I know that you perform every day in what you do. But come on, if you were offered a leading role in some big thing with a big name, would you be taking it?
I don't know. I mean, genuinely, I don't know. I absolutely love what I do, and what I love about what I do now that I didn't have when I was an actor is that I can see the effect of the work that I'm having. It's like it's instant. Even working virtually, you can see people's performance improve. You'll have a follow-up coaching call and someone will say, I nailed that, or I just got the promotion, or we went to market and it was a massive success. As an actor, it's quite a selfish profession, and I'm sure that any actors watching this will understand what I mean. It's not a criticism, it's just you have to be very aware of yourself, what you look like, what you sound like, what you're doing, what the next job is going to be. You're doing a fantastic job, but you're not really in control of many of those variables until you become, I don't know, Tom Cruise or whatever, and you've got your next 10 years mapped out. But for most people, it's very high and very low, and I found that quite challenging to deal with. I discovered some really useful coping mechanisms for that, but it's not an environment that I would relish jumping back into. If you said to me, Dominic, I've got this great part, there's some great people in the cast, we just want you to do that, and then you can go back to doing what you're doing, then I'd probably be like, yeah, that sounds fun. Once an actor, always an actor, I suppose. So watch this space. When I'm 65, I'll roll out the the acting career again.
Good. I mean, I wouldn't want you to lose it. How do you deal with Zoom fatigue? I mean, are there any ways of? Is it just all these best practices, or is there anything new to try and? Because I think a lot of people are suffering from that. Yeah. So how do you engage your teams in these meetings?
So two things. Firstly, why is your meeting 30 minutes or 60 minutes? Because Microsoft Outlook told you so, right? You went to book something in and you took the default time setting. So first, think about how long you need. And I would suggest that if you thought you needed 30 minutes, you could definitely get it done in 25, and it'd be more focused anyway. So try and put some buffer times in, and be very deliberate about that, so that the meeting ends and people have time to get to the next meeting. So ideally, we should be looking at maybe 20-minute meetings instead of half an hour, certainly 45-minute meetings instead of an hour. So that will give you time in between. And then what you do in between those times is really important. One thing I'm really noticing with clients right now is that people are spending a lot of time sitting at their desk. So, you might log on over breakfast at 8:00 and you're still sitting with the laptop on your lap, finishing off some emails at 8:30 at night. And actually, if you think about it, you've spent most of the day kind of in something like this sort of position. And we anchor emotional states in the body. So when you are feeling relaxed, your body is relaxed. When you are feeling uptight, your body is normally uptight. So actually putting some physical breaks in, where you get up and you walk around and you have a little bit of a stretch. We used to walk to the kitchen at the other end of the corridor. We used to pop over to Susan's desk to ask her a question. And instead, we're just sitting in the same space. So use a physical cue, a physical, stretch, movement, warm up to get you prepared in between those meetings. And that will help break up the Zoom fatigue. The mind and the body are linked. So when you start to move the body, you'll start to move the mind.
But it's also trying to get your teams to do that, isn't it? So is there something in there that you should be doing that during a call, during a meeting then? I mean, would that be fair to say? That would be.
I mean, we'll certainly think about breaks within a meeting. So anything over an hour, and I'm normally thinking we need to put something in here. 10 minutes, get up, stretch, move. With my teams, if I see the energy's flat, I'm like, right, everyone get up on your feet, 30 seconds, move around. Just finding opportunities to reset throughout the day is really important. No one's ever going to be disappointed that you said, you know what, we've got another 20 minutes to go in the diary, but I think we're done right now. And say, no, keep us here. So just get used to giving people their time back, and you will instantly elevate yourself to super boss status.
You've done some big keynote speeches in your time, and I'm wondering, before you get onto stage, are there any particular things that you do? And I'm guessing that if there are, you get people to do this just, going into any situation. What are the particular techniques that you do?
So the two big things for me are the physical stuff. So I'm always doing a warm up. I include this area as well. So I won't do these on camera, but I do some kind of crazy articulation warm ups, face stretches and tongue twisters and those sorts of things. But the big piece for me, and this comes right back to my drama school days, is getting myself centered. And the way I do that is with breathing. So when I first went to drama school, I was actually an incredibly nervous performer. So, bright red flush, you could fry eggs on my ears. I was sweaty. It was horrible. But I learned in voice classes and in movement classes really to get a control over my breath. So what you'll find is if people are nervous or having a kind of panic reaction, they'll tend to be breathing up into the chest. And what we want to do is actually breathe down into the diaphragm. So if you can get that low breath, if someone's having a panic attack, what do you say? Just to take a deep breath, and it's absolutely right. If you can get the breathing down and just slow everything down, you actually work against the fight or flight response. So you can just find yourself getting a lot more calmer, a lot more grounded. I'm looking for some sort of stillness, bit of focus. And then what I've done there is I start to kind of capture and bottle the energy. so that I can use the energy rather than the energy using me. So rather than I'm just, a little bit all over the place, I can start to focus that and take it forward. So if that's of interest, I go into that a lot more in the book, and I do a little video in there. There's some resources. So if you want to check that out, that's a good place to start.
For those listening, unfortunately, Dominic didn't do any funny faces, but I actually have a feeling I may have seen some of his before. Again, I have a feeling that this is that sort of 5% thing where we were talking about video messages. Only 5% of people are doing video messages. I'm thinking that actually less than 5% of people are thinking about their breathing before they go into something.
Yeah. And it's fascinating, though. Once I've worked with a team, it's normally one of 3 or 4 things that will come back as the kind of feedback of what are we implementing and what has made the biggest difference. So you might think that it sounds a little bit kind of woo-woo and a bit strange, but actually once you've tried it and once you've then deployed it in a high stakes situation, you'll find that it's a brilliant way to get you in the zone.
I remember you've always been very, obviously I do marketing, you do communication. The two are very linked. I remember you telling me about a marketing campaign that you did, a very, very targeted campaign. You used the Thunderbirds part of you. I just want you to explain to people watching and listening. It was a set of postcards, wasn't it, that you did in handwritten envelopes? Tell us more, because I thought it was really clever.
So what we were trying to do is we were trying to look for a way that we could stand out from the crowd and create a little bit of intrigue. There are lots of people that offer training, and a lot. We're very much a communications training specialist, but there are plenty of training organizations that will do time management, leadership, project management, and communication in there as well. So there's quite a lot of competition, and we wanted to really capture people's imagination and focus them on the thing that we did. So I had a great business coach at the time, and we were kind of bouncing some ideas around, and he was like, "You must use the Thunderbirds thing somehow. That's like, what could we do with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing?" So what we did is we started this postcard campaign where we had 5 postcards, well, actually 6 postcards. So you had the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. And those first 5 postcards were completely anonymous. They were handwritten, but they were little kind of teaser things. I can't remember the copy, but there was stuff around, would you like to help the communication in your organization take off? And there was just like cheesy little intrigue statements. And what we did is we dripped those out. So they kind of landed one a day in people's post boxes. And then the 6th postcard said something like communication skills are go, and there was a URL. So all of these were signed from Virgil, by the way. So there were no company branding on there. There was nothing about me, and it said the last one just said, "Hi, hi Johnny, I've made you a little video." Just to go back a step, because I think my understanding is the way you sent it out was that you'd send, postcard. The first postcard was sent out, but it was put in a birthday card envelope. It was in a coloured envelope, handwritten to a very specifically to a target that you were trying to absolutely. So these were very targeted. We looked at the types of businesses that we want to work with. We researched the people on LinkedIn. We'd phoned the business and found out what their email address and made sure that person was working in the organization. So we'd done all the homework. And then each envelope had a different color. So they were, they were all the colors of the Thunderbird. So red, blue, green. So each one was very kind of specifically designed to move people onto the next step.
And the purpose being was to getting it onto their desk as well, because it was handwritten.
Yeah, so you'd normally find, when we spoke to people afterwards, you'd normally find that the first one was put on their desk because they thought it was a birthday card or something like that. And then the second one was put on their desk because they were like, bloody hell, there's another one of these. And then it started to become talking points in offices. So as you would expect, some people hated it, ignored it, and they went straight in the recycling. But other people, they became for a whole week a sense of like, we've got another one of these things and we don't know who it's from. And so then that final postcard with the URL just said, hi Johnny, I've made you a little video. I would love to know what you think. Best wishes, Virgil. And the URL was videofromvirgil.com /Johnny. And if you went there, you'd get a personalized landing page with me saying, with a personalized video. So it wasn't just a one size fits all. It was, hi, Johnny. Love what you're doing at Fleek at the moment. Be really interested in talking to you about A, B, and C. And if people got through to that stage and watched the video, then they were surefire for a conversation. There was no way that they weren't going to book something in and have a chat with us. And the lead time in our sort of world is a little bit different. We're not selling, paper supplies or something that people are going to need immediately. So those conversations could go on. And in fact, we're still having conversations now with people that got postcards 3 or 4 years ago, and we've stayed in touch with. And when the time is right, we will be the people that they come and buy from.
I hope you don't mind sharing that, because I just thought it was just so clever, and it's something that I referenced back to many times, and I just think it was really, really clever.
I think it's a combination, and we're no longer running that campaign, but we're doing similar things. A combination of personalization and video, and those two things are really, really powerful. There are a million ways to get past the gatekeeper, and people become wise to this. But the other thing is that direct mail is still one of the easiest ways to get in front of people, and that's become a little bit more difficult right now. But there are still ways for you to do that. There'll be certain times in the year where we decide that we're going to give away a couple of copies of the book and that sort of thing, and so we will go out to people targetedly and just say, hey, would love to send you a copy of the book. If this is of interest, let us have your address. For those people that get back, we've got a home address where we can post them a copy of the book. We can put a handwritten postcard inside, and then inevitably follow them up with a little video message afterwards to say, have you had a chance to read? Have you got any training needs right now? We'd love to have a further conversation. So use that combination. I think it's really powerful.
We talked about we're all now in showbiz.
Yeah.
What should we be? What should we be doing? What should we be riding this storm? Should we be having our own TV channel? What's your thoughts and point here, Dominic?
I think we've just got to acknowledge that there's a lot of competition for our audience's eyes and ears. Yeah, and now, when we're sitting in an office, you could go over and have a conversation, or you could get someone to come in to meet you and sit down and make them a cup of tea and bring out the best biscuits and all of that sort of stuff. You can't do that in the same way now. So the way that you can elevate yourself is just by thinking about how you're showing up on camera. What impression are you giving to your audience? And there are just little things. Let me just have a quick play around with the settings. Silly little things like this. Here I am using a different camera. You can see my skylight. You can't see me as well. I'm much less impactful. This is like real budget TV show versus going to something that is definitely the best of the BBC or ITV. Just thinking about some of those little production values are really important. How you light yourself, the sort of type of microphones that you're using, and not just taking video meetings for granted, not just thinking, okay, well, I do a good job in my sales meetings, but with the team, it's just a team. Your team will get really disengaged really quickly if they're not feeling your presence down the lens, if they don't think that you are there talking to them. In a meeting environment in an office, it's much less unlikely, or much less likely, that you'd have like your mobile phone out or another browser window open. We live in this world of distractions now, and so we need to keep people's attention. It is essentially the attention economy, whether you're using that from a sales perspective or from leading a team perspective. Your job is to keep your audience's eyeballs and to keep them focused on you and what you're doing, and not clicking away to do something else. So you've got to think about the quality of your broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you getting enough downtime? And you like the outdoors. Has COVID given you a bit more of that? Where are you going to next? Where's the next trip?
So no is probably the short answer to that. It's actually been incredibly busy for us over the last 6 months, because so many organizations have wanted to rethink the way that they do that. But I am pleased to say we had a team meeting and went through the delivery diary this morning, and the 2 weeks before Christmas, things really start to wind down. So I'm looking forward to some time out. We just got a puppy, so we're going to be doing a lot of puppy training, and then hopefully getting in some kind of Christmas walks and going and enjoying a little bit of the countryside. So that should be me switching off for a few weeks over Christmas, which will be great.
Fabulous. It's been fascinating speaking to you. We've come to the end of our time, I'm afraid, Dominic.
Already, my goodness,
yeah,
that flew.
We could talk for a long time, and it's brilliant. And you've got some great ideas, great thoughts, and I absolutely love it. And you've got the book on Amazon. It's called Impact.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
If I am a senior leader, here's a screenshot. If I'm a senior leader looking to make a bigger impact, or looking to increase business development or engage teams, where do we find you, Dominic?
So find me, if you're interested in training, then find me and us at inflow.global, or connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'd say, we're broadcasting on LinkedIn. So anyone who's watching on LinkedIn right now, feel free to connect. It'd be lovely to see you. If you're interested in speaking for, a team conference, or putting together a virtual meeting in the new year, then you can find a lot of information about that at dominiccolenso.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening, everyone, and watching. And it won't be long before there's another live Q&A with another guest. But Dominic, today, you've been amazing. Thanks very much, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
You've been listening to the Johnny Ross audio experience. Thanks so much for joining me. If you want to continue the conversation, head over to my website, fleek.marketing, or find me on LinkedIn. That's all for today. Please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, tag me in your social media posts, and please leave me a review on iTunes. It will make a huge difference for me. I will see you soon.